Hey YouTube, Blade Brothers here. It's been a long weekend holiday. The weather has been pretty nice. So I've been out and about and doing some outdoor activities. Social distancing and wearing my mask, of course, but actually it's good to just be out there and when no one's around, actually be able to take down the mask and, get a breath of fresh air. But that actually led me to start up this video. I think wanted to just kind of conduct a video about some bushcraft slash survival type knives. And what you see in frame here are three of such knives that I have. Sort of the evolution of what I was looking for in these types of knives, and sort of just gradually purchasing other types of knives for different purposes. So what I have here, let's start with the first one. So I'll move these out of the way, so that way it won't take up too much of the frame. This is the K-Bar BK, so Becker BK10. I think they also call it the Crewman. So this is actually one of the earlier bushcrafting slash survival type knives I purchased. My brother actually introduced me to the Becker knives. It's a very solidly well-built knife, made in the USA. The steel is sort of K-Bar's 1095 Crowvan, so it's a high carbon steel. So they have this apply this sort of black coating on it to prevent corrosion and rust. The handle is a Zytel thermoplastic type nylon, and it has a sort of an ergonomic grip to it, so it feels real good in the hand. Very substantial. Overall weight is about 12.2 ounces. Overall length is 10.875 inches, and the blade length overall is 5.5 inches. So I have actually taken this out outdoors, and then used it in one of the bushcrafting classes I've taken with the Bushcraft Pacific Northwest. So that's actually, so I filed this down, you see here, because the coating was obstructing my use of the knife for striking a ferro rod. So I actually filed this down to remove the coating, and now, so if I actually use it with a ferro rod, it will throw sparks properly. So probably can't see it from this light, so, but trust me, I've actually started a fire with use of a ferro rod and this knife in particular. Overall, it's a good knife. Batoned wood with it before, and you can see here there's no scratches or anything to the finish, so actually managed to flail this with a stick and then split wood with it. Feathered. So taking like a wood stick and making wood shavings to create a bird's nest for starting a fire. Overall, well built, solidly constructed, hasn't had any damage or anything. The edge held up relatively well, despite all the woodwork. This is a sort of, I guess, flat grind here with a little bit of the spine here. It's got a very thick spine. I think if I remember right, it's about 0.205 inches in terms of thickness, so it's got some nice heft to it. Let me see if I can zoom in and show. So it's got a lot of heft to it. Just for contrast, Let me see if I can find something that would actually have a little see if I can see that. Not really, but it's relatively thick, you can see here. So yeah, and I still keep this in a bug out bag, so it is a nice go-to knife. The clip point blade here is really good in terms of penetration into like some wood and whatnot to do like scraping of bark and kind of prying. It's actually held up, the tip, so it's very solidly built. One thing I didn't quite like is this sort of like ramp here. So I rested my thumb here to like feather wood, and after a while the angle where it, because I have relatively long fingers, as you can see here, so the way you have to angle and kind of, you cause a little bit of a weird angle here. So when I'm feathering wood after, you know, maybe about 4 or 5 minutes even, it starts to get fatigued. It really strains the thumb a little bit. There is a sharpening choil, and then there is a guard here to prevent your fingers from slipping. Has a lanyard hole, pretty standard. It's all black. Overall, a pretty good knife. Has a nylon sheath, as you can see here. Moly adaptable. Little pocket here for, it does not come with any like sharpening stone or ferro rod. So what I actually do is, you know, you can pick up some of these magnesium ferro rod type of like bars here, or even purchase a separate like ferro rod for it, and you know, stash it in there. The inside is similar material, probably molded plastic, so it doesn't actually, it's not molded to the blade. If you don't fasten the clasps, the blade will fall out. Not a big deal though. The only things that are sort of not necessarily the greatest part about this particular knife is the ramp, as I mentioned, for the thumb, and its overall weight. It's, you know, a bit to carry, especially if you have quite a bit of things in your sort of go bag. So mine's is pretty much like a rucksack, pretty heavy. So yeah, it was substantial in weight. And then actually when I went to the bushcrafting class that I attended, it was kind of interesting because this was the rather like large and bulky knife. I'll show you the other knives I got. Most of the other people within the class was using something more sort of smaller in size and more compact and definitely lighter. So, but overall, not a bad knife. I still keep it with me, and then I have it in my go bag. Okay. The second knife, you can see here, one of my favorite brands, Tops. This one is the Tops B.O.B, or Brothers of Bushcraft knife. So let's zoom in here. See, it's the Fieldcraft knife from the Brothers of Bushcraft. So it's a B.O.B, and it's a Tops knife. I got this one. They do have, most of the other ones actually are 1095 high carbon steel, but this one in particular that I purchased is a 154 cm. So it's a sort of tougher stainless steel. But this knife is actually more in line with what the other classmates were using in the bushcrafting class. You can see scale in terms of overall size. You can compare it with the BK10. It's notably smaller. Weight, it is only 10.58 ounces. So almost 2 ounces lighter. And it is a stainless type of steel, so it doesn't have to be coated. So there's some convenience. I didn't have to strip any of the coating or anything. G10 handles, and I went with the red and black design, sort of more this pattern, this style sort of reminds me of more of a wood type of feel. There's this little indent here for actually when you're doing a fire bow for starting fires. You can actually apply pressure down and have this stick down here and then apply your fire bow. There's a notch here for your ferro rod. So, and Tops is better with this accessories. It has this particular Kydex sheath with the belt clip, and it also comes with a ferro rod, as well as pretty much their signature. It comes with a little whistle with their information on top. I did actually bought an upgrade for this particular knife. So instead of the Kydex sheath, I was more partial to leather, so I actually bought the Tops leather sheath. It also has a clasp here for your belt. It's I like the fact that it hangs because it's a free, has the ring here, so it's free hanging. And it fits in right there. So really like this knife. And then I like the fact that it has this design here for better control of the blade if you need to, and it has jimping right here. Notice it is flat along the spine of the blade, so you can really just kind of crimp up into the blade and get more control. So feathering with this particular blade is a lot easier by comparison than the BK10. I mean, definitely you can do it with the BK10, but you can do more with this particular knife, which is why I really like this knife. There's also a lanyard hole, and it's a Scandi grind. So nice balance of durability, yet a finer blade for control when you need to do some like carving and whatnot. Overall, you can kind of see here, it's a little bit thicker than the BK10, because this was the original setting of the BK10, and you can see here it can't quite get onto the spine, so it is nice and thick, so you have a lot of heft and batoning with this, even though it is a shorter blade. This one is overall length 9.5 inches. The blade length is 4.75 inches. So 4¼ inches, 3/4 inch. But I still actually can baton wood with this and split wood with this. So haven't had any problems. I keep this actually in my sort of day-to-day hiking backpack, as a matter of fact, in the event that I need it for anything. The blade design, let me zoom out here and you can see more clearly a comparison. The blade design is not as, how should I say, imposing as the BK10. I mean, the BK10 has more of this tactical feel to it, being all black and, you know, all that. So it has more of a tactical feel to it. And it's just overall looks, you know, it's a bigger knife. So this is not as imposing, so doesn't raise as much eyebrows when you're actually using it. And you know, you can tell it's the design. It is a bushcrafting knife. Okay. Then the last knife I have, this one. It actually is sort of like an in between the two. This one is a LionSteel. Knife. So let me see if I can zoom in here. LionSteel with Schleppner is the blade steel. They call this model the M5 Hunter. And it is a great knife. It's sort of a nice balance between the two. I mean, overall utility, I think the tops is still, it's built for bushcrafting. I think while the BK10 is built to be a, you know, sort of single-use survival knife. I think one of the attributes of a survival knife that you look for is that it's multifunctional. And it serves multiple purposes, and you know, the thicker thicker blade. Oh my God, I'm losing my speech. The thicker blade, the, you know, just overall, you know, sturdiness of this build makes for that type of like survival knife type of feel, while the B.O.B knife definitely can be a survival knife, but it's also built for the different chores related to bushcrafting. One might argue they're the same thing. I mean, you know, try to cut firewood, or, you know, or feather wood sticks for, you know, kindling and things like that. All of which you can do, and the overall thickness of this, you can, you know, trim like twigs down for firewood and things like that too, cut rope and all of that. But I think this is built more for, and there's definitely the possibility if you need to, for defense purposes. This is more of a knife you would use in a defense situation, you know, rather than this one by comparison, I think. But it can be argued, a lighter knife, more versatility, more agility with it, you know. So that's sort of why I like the LionSteel. It's a nice in-between, I think. So the LionSteel M5 Hunter, it has also G10 scales, but it has this interesting little pattern. Schleppner steel is a actually a nice in-between steel. It is a harder steel. It has a edge retention that's quite renowned. It is a type of tool steel. Think a Rockwell hardness somewhere in the range of like 60 plus. So definitely good edge retention. And then it is sort of stonewash and treated, so it's less subject to corrosion. It also has a sharpening choil, very pronounced one here. This one's more of a saber grind, so it is thinned out more. There's less of the spine material here, which makes it much lighter though. So while the Becker here is about 12 ounces. The tops is about 10 ounces. This is about 8.64 ounces. And then the tip design, it's still got a relatively decent amount of heft, but it is definitely thinner compared to the Becker. You can see here, see. And what I like about it though is they actually rounded out the spine. So it is actually rounded here. So there isn't any like sharp corners. So, you know, when you're, even though it doesn't have jimping, it feels really comfortable to actually push up against the spine as high as you need for a lot better control when you're doing like fine woodwork. And then also the sort of, there's a slight curvature to the blade. The tip, you know, how it's almost a clip point. So it actually, I think, a sort of stabbing or piercing motion, and for like, you know, actual skinning type of jobs, if you're hunting for and processing meat, this actually is a very good knife for that purpose. So it's a well-rounded type of survival knife slash bushcrafting knife. So, and then of course this one also came with a nylon sheath with pocket, with some sort of mole attachment inside plastic. So it will, it holds a little bit better than the Becker. The Becker feels more like a universal sheath, because if you actually have it in, see, it drops right out without the straps. And because of the weight, I think that's why it has two straps to hold it in place. There. But the LionSteel, you can see here, the strap isn't attached. It doesn't quite fall out unless you really shake it hard. See, it still didn't drop. So it has a little bit better hold. And it's a single strap, I guess because of the weight. And then of course the Kydex for the tops, but I went with the leather. And even with the leather, because it's molded to the design, so you can see here it doesn't just fall out. So, all right. So here we have some bushcrafting survival type knives. I think they're all great knives, and I've actually have some other ones. Those weren't used as much. I have a Schrade Frontier, and I also have some Mora knife blades as well for my my family. So those are more common. I think especially for my daughter, the Mora knife blade, I think it's the Companion, is a very good knife. It's light and it feels good in the hand for her. She has definitely smaller hands than me. So, but these are actually the three blades that I use mostly. Sort of my bug out bag, definitely I put the BK10 in there for the hiking type of situation, or just, you know, being outdoors, or camp type of situation. I would go with either the LionSteel or the tops. Yeah, so there are many. Bushcrafting has become quite popular as a, you know, a pastime, a hobby, and yeah, these knives, there's always new ones coming out, and, you know, enhancements to existing models and whatnot. So, but these are, yeah, I really like the design, and you can kind of see the evolution. I went with a sort of one knife for every job type of approach, and gradually, with, you know, more experience and I guess skill enhancement for like my bushcrafting skills, then I can use a more lighter, focused, you know, type of, or targeted use type of knife. So and different knives for different purposes, I guess. So all right, I really hope you like this video. Definitely leave some comments if you would like to see some additional content, or if you want me to go in more detail. I'm contemplating on doing some like field test type of videos, but that's, if the weather permits and everything, I might consider doing that. But overall, these are the bushcrafting / survival type knives that I have, and would love to hear from you if you have some thoughts about what I have, what I use in comparison to what you might be using. All right, as always, we appreciate your support. Like and subscribe to our channel. This is Blade Brothers signing off. Have a good one. Take care.